All right, just before I start my presentation, I will just kind of give a little, just a little spiel. I wear a lot of hats with Grow Montana and MT-PECH, so I'll do my very best to answer questions at the end. There's a lot of folks with the Grow Montana Coalition who have more experience with farm to school and the lobbying side of things. So if I can't answer questions, I will be taking notes and making sure that I kind of can get back to all of you with that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And all right, do that. Is it? All right, well, thank you everybody for being here and welcome. As Rachel said, my name is Maura Henn. I am a community food systems specialist at MT-PECH, where I serve as the Grow Montana Food Policy Coalition Coordinator. And before we talk about the Farm to School bill, we're going to just talk a little bit about what is Farm to School. Farm to School connects kids with local farmers and the healthy, fresh food they produce. The program expands food purchasing and education practices at schools and preschools to prioritize Montana-grown food. Farm to School implementation differs by location, but always includes one or more of the following core elements: procurement, in which local foods are purchased, promoted, and served in the cafeteria or as a snack or taste test; education, where students participate in education activities related to agriculture, food, health, or nutrition; and school gardens, where students engage in hands-on learning through gardening. Montana Farm to School is a collaboration between Montana Office of Public Instruction, Montana Team Nutrition, Montana State University, and other partners through the Montana Farm to School Leadership Team to provide support, training, and resources to schools and communities interested in implementing farm to school initiatives. So what are some of the benefits of the farm to school programs? Research shows that students who participate in farm to school programs demonstrate an increased willingness to try new fruits and vegetables. Kids that have an easy access to a variety of high quality fruits and vegetables eat more of them. By combining increased access to local and fresh fruits and vegetables with farm to school educational activities, children demonstrate healthier nutrition behaviors. In addition, farm to school programs aim to support strong community food systems. So what are some of the challenges for local foods in schools? Well, school budgets are incredibly tight and make it difficult for even the most dedicated school food professionals to purchase local foods. In the 2018-2019 school year, 447 schools reported implementing farm to school in some capacity, representing 58% of schools in Montana. According to the USDA Farm to School Census, 41% of Montana schools wanted to increase purchases of local food. Despite a strong foundation and growth in farm to school, lack of funding remains a barrier to providing all Montana children access to these effective programs. So how will the Farm to School bill help? The Pilot Farm to School Grant Act, to be administered by the Montana Office of Public Instruction, provides schools with a funding incentive to purchase Montana grown or raised foods for school nutrition programs. The funding is intended to support schools increasing purchases of Montana grown and raised foods for use in school meals, food and agriculture education, and promotion of Montana products. The competitive grant program will be created and pilot tested for 2 years. A total of $200,000 is requested for the pilot. At least 90% of the funding will be awarded to schools, and up to the remaining 10% may be used for administrative and evaluative expenses to ensure successful implementation and monitoring of the pilot program. Schools will be selected based on multiple criteria, including free and reduced rate, current level of implementation of farm to school, geography, and size of school. The pilot program will be evaluated for reach, economic impact, and long-term sustainability. So what is the impact and benefit of the Farm to School bill? The Farm to School bill has the potential to spur economic growth. Montana schools serve 19 million meals per year, providing an excellent opportunity for farmers, ranchers, and food businesses to sell their products to schools and thus have a steady market opportunity. Each dollar spent on local foods creates up to $2.16 in additional local economic activity. The Farm to School bill has the potential to enhance kids' health by providing Montana children with access to healthy, fresh foods by providing needed funding incentives to K-12 schools to purchase, promote, and educate about Montana grown and raised foods. The Farm to School bill has the potential to also promote Montana agriculture by improving Montana's knowledge, attitudes towards agriculture, food, nutrition, and environment. This can lead to increased access to healthy local foods and improved food security. So what is Grow Montana's strategy for the bill? Grow Montana has committed to carrying the bill in the 2021 legislative session. The Grow Montana Farm to School bill subcommittee is currently refining the bill to ensure the language clearly outlines the focus on procurement of local Montana foods. The coalition is seeking a legislative sponsor for the bill, and we're hoping to obtain input from summit attendees today. This type of program has been successful in states such as Oregon and Michigan. The legislatures in these two states continue to increase funding for these programs because they've been so successful and demonstrated impact. And how can you be involved? Consider joining Grow Montana's mailing list to receive action alerts during the session. Consider preparing testimony. Grow Montana can help provide tips on giving testimony during the hearing for the Farm to School bill. Giving testimony is one of the most effective ways to educate legislators and policymakers about the impact, either positive or negative, that proposed legislation or legislative change might have. And you can also follow us on our social media, and we have a new website coming at the beginning of January. And thank you all. I'd like to open this up for any questions you might have. And I will stop share. And I see Aubrey's here. Aubrey, I had a question in the last session that someone asked, will this bill start in the House? And I wasn't sure what the answer was to that. And so I'm hoping that from your past experience, you can help me with that. So if there's anybody else who has that question, I can answer it.
The last time this bill was introduced, the last session in 2019, it was introduced in the House.
Okay.
The House Education Committee.
House Education Committee. Thank you.
Beyond that, I don't know what the rules are, so my apologies.
I think, hi, this is Lisa. I think it has to be in the House because there's an appropriation. Lori, you're probably the most knowledgeable in this group. Any insight from you on that?
I'm actually not aware that if there's an appropriation, it has to start in the House, but do not trust me on that one because I don't work a lot with appropriations. It is true that the appropriations bill, like the House Bill 2 in the budget it does start in the House.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that that means that all appropriation bills have to start there.
Okay, thank you.
I think in a general way of thinking about things, although it's hard to tell this session, I do think starting in the House is not a bad idea. Just this group heard just sort of the path of the last legislation we were talking about, and how things can get hung up in the Senate. So it's a little easier to buy yourself time to build some steam if you start in the House, typically.
I'd like to know what the downside and the upside arguments are for this piece of legislation. It's kind of good to know what we're going after. So can you elaborate or kind of articulate that?
I can certainly try. I think that some of what was discussed in our most recent Farm to School subcommittee meeting with Grow Montana is that it's going to be incredibly difficult with the current budget, that asking for any appropriations is going to just be a challenge in and of itself. I think that we're really trying to focus on that procurement piece and kind of telling that story of how this will support our Montana farmers and producers, and what that means and why that's so important. Because we know that telling that story is what's going to be most impactful with the current legislation. Certainly, if anybody else has kind of some insight on that as well, I think having an open kind of conversation with this is really great. But those were kind of the two pieces that we talked about most recently.
I'm wondering during the COVID period, if this wouldn't be a strong argument that it is going to help our local farmers, besides the fact that it's just nutritionally better, et cetera, et cetera. But that might be the strongest argument going, which is something that COVID gives us instead of takes away.
Right. No, that's a really good point. And I think that's part of the reason Grow Montana is carrying on with this bill, even knowing that the appropriations piece might be challenging, is that food access and distribution has been such a large conversation during COVID, and how we can continue to not just support but increase the ability for our farmers to be successful in the state, and what ways we can do that. As I mentioned in the presentation, schools want to increase their ability to be able to procure local foods. I helped with a study this past summer, interviewing food service managers at schools about what are their top challenges, and cost was the biggest one. So, if we can help with that a little bit, or if that can be helped with a little bit, they're primed to be working with local farmers.
This is a pretty basic question, but we should call this the Grow Montana bill. Like the previous one is the double snap dollar bill. We don't have a number for it yet, but you know how everything has its shortened names. So that's the preferred name, Grow Montana bill?
The Farm to School bill. That's what
it's called the Farm to School.
Yeah, that's been our shorthand in our meetings. Yeah. In our meetings.
That's good to know.
Oh, good.
And just wondering, I guess my question would be more so around, have you polled schools more recently because of COVID? Like I wish we had gingers everywhere across the state, but we don't. And I know a lot of food service directors are in crisis mode and just trying to survive right now. So ordering a lot of prepackaged foods, it might be a strong argument to know who's much more interested in it now because of COVID to really amplify this message.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, those food service professionals that we talked with this summer, a lot of them, and they weren't saying that they planned on stopping. It was more of a question of like, well, we just don't know what's going to happen. But in a lot of those instances, there were school gardens were a big piece of the Farm to School program that they were still relying on. So, I mean, maybe part of our strategy could be just checking in with them and seeing how, now that the school year has started, how has COVID, how is it impacting